Hello, 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 wild wisdom warriors. Hello, warriors. Hello from around the world, my shamans, my dear warriors. Welcome to my journal. Let's see what we can do today. When hunters become the hunted. So thank you everyone for joining me. Today is February 12th, 2020, and this is Lily's journal. So welcome everyone. And this is Lily's journals. And this is Lily Kawasaba. So here we go, you guys. Okay. This is gonna be my subject today. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this little tool over here. This is a demon hunter tools. So for those of you shamans that go into that world and access that world and then hunt the hunters, welcome, because this journal is going to be for you. Okay, because it's going to be all about owning your individual power today and how to deal with this demonic world as empowered individual. And this is what I want to focus on today. So I'm going to be talking about using this. I know those of you that are familiar with traditions, with Eastern traditions and like Buddhism and all of that stuff. So you might know this is sort of that believe it or not, this thing is so, you guys, it's so freaking heavy. I have to hold it with two hands just to hold it up. So, and because it's really heavy, right? But it has a significant meaning, right? And for those of you that know of the warriors and the spiritual warriors and those that do battle, and so Eastern traditions do really have their mythologies and things like that they do have. See, and this is all about the Trinity coming together, okay? The Holy Trinity. And this is how you battle your own demons. Every mythology and so this thing is really quite heavy. And believe it or not, you guys, I've been traveling with this thing in my carry-on every time. No problems. This thing is really heavy. By the way, so I'm gonna put it down for a minute, you guys. Gonna get some water, and then I'm gonna get into this when hunters become the hunted, and what does it mean, and the equilibrium of that, or the pillar of the shamanic, or the shamanic pillar, or the aura of a shaman that has to stand in equilibrium, because this is where the power comes from. And what is equilibrium? It's balance. So how do you battle the negative? Within you don't battle within, you bring it into equilibrium within. And that's how each shaman operates. And that's how each shaman can observe what is truly happening in the spiritual world, be it with a group of people or whoever the shaman serves spiritually, be it a tribe, be it a society, be it a group of people, be it a family, be it nature. There's shamans to serve nature. And so whoever that is, whatever it is, that the success of the shaman before any shamanic journey is to be in this equilibrium, meaning having your own demons under control. Okay. And so this is what I want to talk. Hi, Santo. Hi, Jose. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you so much. So I'm going to put this, my demon weapon. But this is more like, this is just something we have, and it's not like you have to have it as a shaman. I'm just showing you guys things that I kind of mark your sort of your authentic path. And when you come to understand what you truly path, your purpose as a shaman, why you truly are here, and what's happening, and what is the ultimate purpose for you to be here, because most shamans will feel like they do know this reality, what it's made of, because they've been around all of their life learning about this duality and existence, and people that exist within in friction within themselves by design. And this is what ultimately you can attain equilibrium by cutting off a negative side, right? Or having someone come and expel your demons and then tell you, well, but if you do something bad, that demon's gonna come back. So what happens there, right, when that happens? Okay, by the way, you guys, I was drinking, this is oranges, and I just have a tangerine, so sparkling water. So I've added a little bit of fresh orange juice because I like it a little bit more orangey. So this is my virgin mimosa. All right, everyone. So anyway, hi, Roger. Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me. So I'm going to be talking today about this ability to be in the equilibrium of your own true soul, or your own creation. Okay. So you guys, before I go anywhere, I'm going to show you, I was not a part of any rituals. I caught my finger really deep, so I had to put multiple bandages on and all of that stuff. So that's why. But anyway, to keep it in equilibrium as a shaman, that's the only way then you can, this is also this equilibrium, or the ability to be in balance. Meaning you're approaching your own reality without fear. And this is ultimately what I keep talking about in this, everything in this fear machine. Why does it have to happen? It's because so you don't reach this equilibrium of your own living soul. Meaning you've been programmed from childhood to be a slave to some other energy or the spiritual hierarchy, be it a religion, be it any other belief structure. Anything that gives you power away, you are not a sovereign individual that is free-willed. You just have a bunch of excuses for why you need to be saved. Because a lot of that slave mentality is based why it is all manifesting here, and why all this we hear about, all this slavery that takes place on all these different levels. It's not just what happened in America then. It's the invasion from within that enslaves an individual's mind. And then they, in turn, control themselves then. Once you create a perfect slave and then teach the slave how to make their children good slaves, and so to continue that, punishment reward training that religion does, they're training human being like a dog to serve them so they can live up to their, oh, you got to serve us, energetically speaking, spiritually speaking, right? And so they turn it, oh, it's, this spirits over here, this discarnate spirits said that you're supposed to worship us and give us your energy, give us your love. You're supposed to love us. You're supposed to give us your light, your living light. You're supposed to give it, right? But they're the ones who save humanity, right? So how come they need living light if they're the ones who's supposed to save? But see what happens when somebody's mind is hijacked from a very young age. Then what happens is this inside out thinking, which is not a logical thinking, which is not, and then individual is just picks sides. They cannot be in this equilibrium that I said, that what a true cross really represents as a symbol is that man, a human being in equilibrium, the one whose balances their own positive and negative energy, are in control of their reality. And I don't know if it's in control is a good word to use, but those that are, they operate their own reality. They can see their own reality. They're not driven by hive mind, which mostly operates through belief systems. Okay. And this is what I want to touch on, because you can tell these people, fake people, by the terms they use, right? By the expectations, right? You kind of expect. Now, once you know what parasitic energy needs, then you can tell them by their fruits. You can tell the tree by its fruits, It's pretty easy, It's comical, actually, how easy it is to see, especially right now in 2020. We finally are here. Clarity. Oh my God, clarity. Right. So the slave only knows how to be slave. Okay. So, but the thing is, and Three Stevens, thank you so much for joining. Naraf, thank you too for being here. So you talk about there is no consequences for your actions once you leave this body that's to trick you into being a good slave. Right. And this is what I've talked about, what I do in my personal hypnosis sessions for those that want a quantum sort of healing type of thing. Hi, Comfort. Thank you so much for joining. So they're tricking you in. How can they trick you into being a slave? First of all, they have to give you doubt. And this is why they start very, very young as children. And this is why most of religions have adopted abuse of children as the foundation for their religion. Because without the abuse, that whole thing would not stand. And so, because what they have to do is they have to undermine that individual power. And so that's why they started taking away from a very, very young age, right? And they make you just into little good slave. And I remember that when my son was going to high school, and I always had an open sort of mm, how to say that. Let's just say I raised him maybe very different than most people raise their children. So we used to have these conversations, and when we used to watch movies and stuff, and he would see prisons and stuff and how they operate, they would show prisons because he never been to prisons, and then he would like go and like, things are kind of in prison like in school. So that then he was seeing all these things, and then we would openly talk about that, because that's the programming. It starts from that age. It's to submit into that structure, any structure. And I am talking about spiritual hierarchy here, and so I'm talking about some really deep subjects that shamans will deal with. And we are coming to a time where clarity will, there is no other way but to go through this sort of through the center of it all, to come to the other side. Like everybody's wanting to get to the other side, but you gotta go through it within, meaning you gotta accept all of this. Both extremes exist on the individual, and then each individual, then collaboratively we have a collective field of consciousness. That's human consciousness. Hi, Judith. Thank you so much for joining. So collective consciousness this is what I mostly talk about of the human. This is DNA. Okay, so this is what it is. It's the field of human consciousness that that expresses through DNA. And so that's why some people have the genetics to pass through certain frequency barriers or portals or whatever you want to talk about, because those are all and you know how even a lot of whistleblowers we're talking about that are using the black budget and all of that are using in underground facilities, when they use all these experiments that they use on human beings. And there's a specific bloodline that they quite like to experiment on a lot. And so this is what happened, and you guys might have mentioned me calling out Laura Eisenhower. This is something that is gonna come to light, you guys, which is gonna be really painful for America. Is that American innocent children have been sold out for experiments, and the cover up for that is all of this alien activities. But none of those are aliens. None of them are over there. All of these experiments, genetic experiments, and then all the monsters, they're literally genetically manipulating and crisscrossing with humans and all of that, trying to find and those of you that have been sort of listening to my videos from 2015, in there at one point I went on Lisa Harrison's, out of all the people. I talk about the genetic experiments, and I was decoding that all of that blue avians that were channeling all of these things over there, and the Vatican was involved. Oh yeah, the Vatican. Yeah, all roads lead there. I mean, ain't that the truth, you guys? Ain't that the truth? So but anyway, what I was talking about, it was all about the genetic experiments that are happening underground. And the cover for that in alternative media or in truth movement is all these aliens. And just like Jacques, whatever that French writer, he wrote about this, that this conspiracy, this is the original conspiracy. So what we have right now in truth community, and this is why I talk so much of truth community, because what we have is we have an operation that is turned inside out, just like in the political thing, because all of this is taken from a playbook that was worked out on the experiments that they did in Soviet Union. So all of this was all these experiments, right? They're just, that part was done in Soviet Union. Then they did all this inside out stuff. And then it seems like America won the war. But what happened is we flipped and it got invaded from inside out. And this is why Eisenhower is so important, because that happened during World War II. Okay. And so then the experiments over there, all of those experiments and everything what they find out and all the data, of course it was shared among the players. And then they launch this like anti-awakening movement, meaning you gotta create such a huge belief system that will give such a limited perspective to a human being, to where they go asleep completely and they become zombies, and then the discarnate spirits can operate them. Because remember how I told you that discarnate spirits, or the invaders, they're like vampires. They got to be invited in. And so this is why a lot of people do, and this is what I talked about, that the communist Christianity and the Babylonian Christianity, that's what worked again, because, and again, talking about slave mentality, because that only works is, how do you create slave mentality in a free loving society? Because this was Russia before invasion of Bolshevik. Russia was a free society. There was no oppression there, right? So everything inverted inside out. And that what happened, I watched how then all those years later, I was born way after, 20, 30 years after war. Right? And I watched a whole country of people of different races. Soviet Union had 15 republics, different languages, different people. And all they had unifying them is the communist oppression. And how they did it? They didn't need that much police anymore. 20, 30 years after the World War II, once they this is why they moved here to America, because the job was done there. They did what they intended to do. They needed to control that society and grab it under control. They needed an enemy. For who? For America. Immediately Russia became, and Soviet Union became an enemy, right? After war with America. This game, I mean, they're not that creative. when they play these games. It's funny. Hi, Seeking Truth. Hi, Amy. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So great to see you guys here. So I'm talking about some spiritual tools and some demon swords. This will kill a few demons. Anyway, so you guys, but anyway, back to put this heavy thing down here. Because what happens then ultimately on the collective level and how it's going to all reflect there, and this is what you're going to see as justice or judgment or whatever it is. It's going to be all clear. By their fruits you will see what they are. Those that are standing on the platform of fear-based reality, they're going to burn in their fear. They're going to drown in it. So, I think I've lost where I was going. Hi, Diane. Happy Wednesday. So anyway, there is no hiding in spiritual world once you achieve, because the only way for the hierarchy to control is to hide. So then the people hide their own power. Okay, and this is how they were able to control and do all the experiments in Gulag. They would take all these young people, right? And then they would try to reprogram them into this slaves that would be controlling other, guarding them. So like police officers, KGB agents, everyone had to go through this mind breaking. So then once they get everybody and they made sure that that is all done, and then the tests were done too during the World War II, if you can mind control people into turning on their own, if you give them the guns and tell them this is the enemy and this is how, and there is more to Ukraine gate that anybody can even it goes so deep, you guys, but we'll get there. So just patience, everyone. We'll get there. So, but it goes really deep because it's on the spiritual level. And so when you guys realize that unraveling that's happening on all these different forms of control, they're just, like I said, they're mimicking, copying, pasting, all of this, because this is the system, this is the way of thinking. There is no logic there. It's just this thing, belief structures that operates. And then it becomes very binary to someone who is in equilibrium, meaning their right brain and left brain hemisphere is in harmony and in balance. That's in the physical world, right? Then the spirit can express that true self, meaning you can fly with one wing, with your left wing down. You're gonna be flying in circles. So you gotta have both sides. So equilibrium gives you that ability to operate on the living light, which is that force within, that when you truly attain, then you recognize that by attaining your own power, now you power in external world. And this is why it's so difficult to truly wake up, and for anyone who's truly tried to speak the truth about self-empowerment and how we truly defend our reality, is by empowering ourselves and not waiting on all these external things. Who has been working so hard in truth movement to eliminate any and all real truth speakers, because this is their agenda. It's inside out and upside down. They copied it on a quantum level, and then they're just repeating it. And so because it's that, this is how they hijack the mind through that too. And this is why people believe such a things. And then this is why they hear the voices and all of that. And all are we going to find out pretty soon? All of it is technology. All of it is technology. And how many of those people in truth movement had turned that inside out and upside down, right? And try to present it to you like it's something spiritual, or it's aliens, or it's one of those things. Okay, so like talk about some obvious invaders of truth movement. They truly are invaders. And if mainstream media has that much invasion and it's been infiltrated that much, and then truth movement is actually where the real truth comes out, you wouldn't think that they would send an army to stop real truthers. So just watch what those truth speakers are talking about, and you'll know what they're saying. Why will you know? Because you are operating on that living force of universe that is the living light. And so now, and even we know with all these astrological alignments, and right now they're talking about Earth being enveloped with this plasma energy. And these people, it makes them go crazy. So they will defend these belief structures that are so ridiculous. And this is why you see the ridiculousness, because all of that, it was technology that was turned against humanity, to use humanity and to weaponize Americans. This is what Eisenhower signed up Americans for, to weaponize Americans against America. Just like they did in Soviet Union. And by the time I lived in Soviet Union, for over 20 years of my life, I lived there. I watched at least 15 years of that life there. I watched people, slaves, controlling each other. That experiment worked. It didn't work for too long. It all fell apart eventually. And just like this thing is just going to fall apart. But when you see things, when you have this view, like I used to talk about, this 360 degrees view, you see it for the totality of human consciousness. The only way you can see it, as I've talked about last couple of years, is through becoming a warrior. Because once you know you're in the world that is inside out and upside down, you will know your mission. You'll know, you grab the sword and you'll go on. But those that are here to stop you from grabbing your sword will come. Zeus, please stop. Will come and tell you, oh, this mythology, this reality is a hologram. So you can't, what I used to call it, stand down programming. When I was running the group, Earth Soul Group, in 2015, 16, I think in 2016, I closed it because it got to the point. The reason why I closed it, because people got so frustrated with me not giving them savior programs. And then I was surrounded by what I call them wasps. They wanted my honey. They wanted so bad. But they wanted to take it from you. They don't want to learn how to become empowered. All they did is just cried and cried and cried and cried. A lot of people cried and cried and cried. And that slave mentality, nobody could rise up, because I got swarmed with all these people that came in there on purpose in that group. At one point, I think I had 50 people in there, trolls that were in there propagating this stand down programming, so people don't and the one thing that they got mad at me, because I said, I'm a warrior. I don't care you don't like what I do. Because I had at least 50 people at one point in that group watching my every word, my every step in there, because they were threatened by my information. They were threatened. But they don't just do that, because this is how they can control it without people having these belief structures, right? Yeah. I mean, they were openly. Remember, Diane? Like Linda B? Openly paid agents. Absolutely. Paid agents. Many of them, and it's just like unbelievable. But the thing is, they're also very dumb. So I've really had, it was so easy to see what they were doing and everything. And it was a great learning experience for me. But at the same time, Diane, in that time, there was a lot of people that still had, picked up so much, and that was so much fun doing those group conversations and all of that stuff. And so, and I'm not saying that, Earth Soul Group was a waste. I'm just saying that I knew at one point there was at least 50 people there trying to derail me. So it's like, wow. So I knew I was endangering a lot of this stand down programming that's been engraved and experimented on. And it was kind of a new thing where they would have these people, constantly, because somebody has to constantly say some kind of lie and give some kind of projection, because if you don't keep somebody's eyes over there, they might see that somebody's stealing stuff out of your pocket. So they have to take your energy. They have to tell you, and this is what is going to come to play. And this is what I said, that Club Idiots Assembly are actually were hiding and were able to operate under a religious protection. So there was a lot of churches and all of these different structures of religious structures that are protecting the abuse due to the religious loophole in here. So so that's why all of this has to do with stealing your spirit energy. So that's why they got to give you a belief system, right? And so you agree to it. So you do, by believing in it, you consent then to them doing the real thing, because you then as a slave say, okay, I am willingly gonna follow you. You are my religious leader, so you take me under your wing. And that's it. They give their freedom away to someone who's only there to take that living light, to take that energy. Because that's the only reason why most religious leaders, you'll see them, when you really look at them, you'll see. And this is why when I was like 5 years old, when I went into church and I saw my pastor babbling on his, in tongues, when he was talking, I saw a demon talking. And he was babbling. The guy was so evil, so evil. No, like compassionless. So disgusting. And everybody else, nobody can say a word. And so this is what happens. There is no need, like I said, on that time, there was no need for big police to keep people in line, oppressed, fighting, barely surviving. Turn off the gas. This is how the Russia and Ukraine in 2014, this was the war that they started. Oh, Russia. Oh, Ukraine. If you don't want to tell us what, if you don't want to listen to us, we're going to turn off your gas. Do they care about people that are freezing to death? They don't. Because it's about playing roles and all of that. And so those broken minds then, and this is why on that time, the epidemic, this alcoholics epidemics, is because, like I said, in army, same program. The abuse is incredible. It is just unbearable to even talk about it. To even talk about it, it's unbearable. So all the broken people then abused, because abusers, then they abuse their own children, and that the cycle of abuse continues. And then these people take advantage of that, and then they present themselves as this, oh, we're gonna help you free yourself, we're aliens now, instead of Babylonian gods, believe in aliens or believe in this or believe in this. So all of this slave mentality, and this is what the people that are not willing to look at their dark side, not willing to take responsibility for their own energy. They're not willing to direct their dark side because they're not willing to own it, because all of their lives, someone programmed them to wait for a savior and be a slave in the meantime, right? Right, Remus? You're absolutely right. You to walk through that, through that inner point of all that is and accept it as your reality. And then taking step by step into changing it to where it's according to your energy structure, that it's not limited by any belief structure or structures. And a lot of times, what they will do, because it's inside out, upside down, right? What they will do is a lot of people, what they will, MK Ultra, most of the people in truth movement, they're all victims of this. They don't need to be out there with the microphones. What they need is they need clinics. They need clinics to get off their drugs cocktails, the pharma cocktails that they're all on. Because those belief structures, like I've talked about Jordan Setter out there, because he's a great example. So Jordan, you're going to be my great example of this MK Ultra victims that been victimized since childhood. And those are the victims of the Eisenhower betrayal. This is what I call it. It's Eisenhower betrayal. Is that what give the ability for those underground experiments to take place? And then the whole thing was created to create all this mainstream and beyond mainstream control of media, because that's exactly how they did it in Russia too. Control of media is a huge part of it. And since I don't know if all of you guys know, but when my father in Siberia, he's the one original 7 people that set up the whole communication department for the KGB over there, and the media control. And so that's the media control. It's like I with my closed eyes, I can recognize all of those things, because I know it's in my blood. I know how they were developed, what exactly, why, how, and what it does. Okay, and what's the outcome of that? And this is why they did exactly the same thing here in America, just a little bit different, but again, from inside out. It's been invaded, and so the media, and then the truth movement, and then comes comes the 2013. Have you guys noticed what happened in 2013? And it kind of because remember how I was talking about that that was the time when we switched into this, and after 2012, collective humanity, I felt, was mostly like, overall, it was a denial. We entered a denial, sort of a denial of our own slavery. And so what happened is we were in denial of the fact that we were not free and all of that stuff. And so that oppression was very felt by shamans, was felt really, really sort of potent, right? In 2013. And then a lot of things change, and a lot of programs change in truth movement. And this is what this is when I think that they thought then that they had this whole thing down, and now there's no way anybody can come out of from under the communist regime here in America. But things went a little different. But what happened is, a lot of what I talked about then in what I brought up, Earth Soul Group, is I talk about a lot of people and a lot of agents on that time went through their reprogramming to run stand down programs. And this is when I stepped in, because this is why I stepped in, and I wrote to Lisa Harrison, and I do keep my records, because I knew on that time who I was dealing with. But I've contacted her to bring in, and I do have all this, to bring in all this new information and all of that. And guess what she was doing on that time? Activating ITAC. That was her whole thing. She was collecting people and activating ITAC. They all believed that they had inside of them ITAC of some sort that's going to take them home and will ascend them. Well, all these years later, what's the result of it? She's repeating the same words as that crazy guy from Heaven's Gate from LA. Once they wanted to go home to meet their alien family. And their alien family was coming through, they had to keep waiting, and they kept getting messages, like she keeps getting messages from Lilu, right? That they had the same like alien thing that, I mean, my God, almost word for word. So now, and so now after 2013, right, they opened up all of this sort of technological, and I've talked about this techno spirituality in my Wild Wisdom Warriors, and I've encoded in those videos a lot of things to watch for. Like, you see how techno spirituality was just so prominent on that time, 2013, 14. And this is when Wilcox showed up with his aliens, their blue avians, and all of that was technological. Then a little bit later, Mark Surgeon and his flathead showed up, and by the way, Flat Earth Society is stupido club. That's what it is. It is. So, but they're scared, and they're going to throw each other under the bus. So they're going to come make rounds because they need this. They need to keep the lie up. They need people to keep talking aliens. Like I said, they need to continue the lie, because if you don't, what happens? It all unravels, because if you don't keep projecting and telling people like Laura, right? Oh, there is Mars over here. There is a secret space program. See, they tell you the truth. There is a secret space program, but she's not telling you, and so they feel privileged to be this, speakers of the truth and all of that. And they will talk about this or that. They're just talking about the programs. They're programmed with that. It's a cover-up operation. Okay? So they're involved in a cover-up operation, but they're in truth moment, but they're in cover-up operation. Okay? So that all of that is unraveling. So, yep, it is. Yes, Judith. Yes. Because all of that spawns from dark web and all of that, but there is a lot more to it, but you'll see all it is involved, because ultimately everyone who is involved with this, and if you look back 2013, 14, 15, 16, look at all those people, all the UFO society, all those people, UFOs were not, people were losing that, and it wasn't working. People started making fun of them for stuff, and this is why when things don't work, they come up with something new, but it's not really new, right? So they come up with something new. So they come up with then Blue Avians came, remember, and then the event came, and all of that stuff, and then there were hybrids. Remember, they were presenting these people as hybrids, and they're here to save us and save human DNA because we were degenerated. And they were saying they were humans from the future, except their DNA was completely destroyed. Well, they lied. They just wanted to be part of humanity's future. So that's why they kept experimenting. And so that's why people out there in truth movement that brought forth all of those whistleblowers, like I mentioned last time, like Carrie Cassidy and other people that brought those whistleblowers, and all of those whistleblowers, go you guys and check. And you wouldn't be surprised that a lot of them are actually part of this P-Do club. And it's all because they're all connected. They all protect each other. Okay. And so and their structure is this way. If someone is being found out for the good of it all, of them all, they'll all turn on that one person, because that's there's compassion, there's no compassion there. So they'll turn, and this is what they'll turn on each other, and stuff like that. Cosmic egg, yes. This is, in fact, you guys, I had an interview with Mark Surgeon, and there I did say that our reality looks like an egg, and this is what this is the Russian old mythology. This is why Russians do the eggs thing. This is why they do it in the spring. It's all because it's the it's just it's hilarious how the traditions are reflecting. It's just how it is, the simplicity of creation. And so this is what it is. So Judith, the scheme is floating. Well, they changed the schemes. It's like, the scammers, the bottomless, the scam of human consciousness, the dirt, the shit of humanity, the scammers like Thomas Williams, and those organizations that collect money. Okay. When they collect money, and some of those people get involved because they're gullible, they start paying money, but most of those people are there collecting money, and a lot of people quietly paying. Like when you go to this people place, like their stuff, they're a whole group. They will also support each other. Okay, because it's like I don't know how to explain, but the way they operate, it's without completely, because they don't have inner stem, so they can only reflect from what they're either told, or that they can only make a decision based on what they're told. They can never think for themselves. So, but it really is. So this Mark Surgeon guy, so guess who's he's connected with? Lisa Harrison. So they're all connected. All these people support each other, and then they agree to go to a next level. And then they bring in, it's like, you've seen, guys, you've seen it. Somebody said, okay, let's try this, and let's try create this little bit different belief structure. But this way we can still harvest a lot of quanta, living quanta, because people will listen. Here we go. Here's Mark Surgeon. I think he's back again, right, Amy? So they're back again because they're being called by their, because things are failing. They need their, so they have those like a conveyor, of people that with broken minds, that they will program them. And all of a sudden, right, it's like you look at them. If someone is on individual path, and I've recorded this myself, in my original video series. And I've recorded a lot of that, as I call it, very scientific kind of ways, where I talked about reality, what it is, and how it operates, and how the energy floats, exchanges, and how it all, because I was experiencing that at night, and I would make those videos. Remember, it was just my hands, and I would talk about the structure of reality, but I was talking about my own words, and you guys, for those of you that heard those, you will know the difference between that, because I was struggling to find words to explain the energy that is in alignment with the conscious mind, because that was the ultimate mission, to expand the conscious mind so it can grasp it, So that's the whole process. And so, yeah, I had the diagrams and everything. And so the diagrams visually would help the conscious mind to start, doing that thinking for itself. So all of those things were, done that way. And, questions and things like that. I've been, telling people, question, why is it that just there's good guardians and bad guardians when it comes to Ashana Din? Why is there like this guardians that are trying to save us from who? Why is it that they can't do shit about that? All they can do is tell us, that, oh, this complicated structure over here is your energetic body. And this calls Sierra Zapata. And this is called Sapalatatata. And you go there and your mind goes, can't process this. I'm going to go in the background, do whatever you want. I'm confused. Giving up their will. And then the guardians like, I'm gonna babble, visual babble, presenting visual babble and all of that stuff, and just sucking the quanta out of them. Let's see. So what they do is all of that they projected, Rory, what they did is they projected their intent in all of that technological. This is why Guardians, Ashana Dean, Lisa Renee, they're all techno-spirituality. This is why they were all of this. Why? Because genetically their DNA is not living. It's dead. Because it's technologically replaced. And this is what they actually wanted to do, is revert that and steal the living codes from humanity. And this is what I talked about when I revealed Wilcox in 2015 of what he is doing. He is actually covering with his story, his alien story in Corey Goody. You know what they're covering for? These genetic experiments. And they're also running experiments. All of those meetings in the desert, it was tests, mind control tests run on people. And people would meet aliens. They would plant all of that. They were testing all of that. And there's people that claim, like David Wilcock, that claims to be a truth speaker. So what do you think happens? He knows that the operation he's running and what he's saying is not truth. And the reason he's saying that, because he wants to cover for the actual truth. That actually underground of this, in the desert there, underground, there's a technology that's there, ready to be tested. And all David Wilcock needs to do is gather the sheep. And with their purchase, this is how sick these people are. With the purchasing ticket, you give your consent to be tested on, to be a human test subject for technology that they've been experimenting on, to adjust and change your DNA. That's what it was for. To modify your DNA. This is the kind of business that these people are in. This is what they protect. And then they tell you the story that aliens are talking about, you ascending or going home, like Lisa. So and then ultimately, as you guys, I posted in Wild Wisdom Warriors, everyone go find out, go learn about program Blue Veil, Club Idiot It's assembly. So you'll know why blue avians, because they're not, it's the same shit. And and what is that all about? And it's the heart. It's the heart of MK Ultra programming here in America. And so they're testing on the population, but first they test on the small, Rory, yes. They are testing on the small population, like those that are gullible enough, because they're searching gullible people that are already very limited. So they have already these belief systems, right? So embedded with Judith, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised what you said about Lisa Harrison. You guys, be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised. And Lisa, if you're thinking about it, trust me, it's not worth it. But she will at some point, probably most likely, commit suicide because of what she's been used for. Yeah, I'm way ahead of that, Judith, but it will come out. I don't want to end on that note. I don't want to say anything, but it's like it would be. So imagine that. So imagine when the real truth, when you think about, okay, if the real truth comes up and all the truth comes up about what I've been protecting. So imagine I'm Lisa and I'm saying, I'm okay. If all the truth comes out, can I still stand here in my truth? And this is what I said. Those that might not be, so to them, what's the opposite? The opposite. So those that, suicide themselves and stuff like that, it's because they're operating on this techno strand. And so they can trigger suicide very quickly, as many of you here know and found out with UG and that whole experience or what happened there. Well, I haven't even touched that yet, but we'll get to it eventually. Lisa does not look well, Rory. Well, because what happens is they're the test subjects themselves. So what can she do right now? She's so limited. There is not, my gosh, she may as well be dead already. What kind of individual power is this when you sit there and like, Lilu, are you gonna contact me on my computer so you can take us home? Oh, what are you doing? Are you rearranging our reality and creating heaven for us? Yes, you do. Thank you, Lilu. Oh, my computer is not straight enough. You can't communicate with me. Oh, how am I gonna get home to heaven? How am I gonna get home, Lilu? People lost their minds. Look at Laura Eisenhower. Aliens! Oh, we're gonna go to Mars! We're gonna go to Mars! It's like, whoa, my God. Oh, let's go to Mars. She's literally, her voice is literally vibrating because it's like, it's not her. There's nothing there, nobody home. It's a tool. It's a tool. It's a tool. It's sad, but I can't allow these people, because they're dead on the inside. And they want to feel some kind of life by giving you anything that you would believe in. And that belief, the action of you giving up your own free will to someone who's begging you because they don't have life, because they're death, they represent death. Did Lisa Harrison, where did the Heaven's Gate end up? Kool-Aid, purple blankets, Nike shoes. Dead. Dead on the inside, dead on the outside. Because how can you claim all of that as your reality when you don't even have access to it, when you have to wait till Lilo on the computer tells you how to go home, or that she's gonna give you home, or whatever? It's nonsense. It's a complete lunacy for people to believe in that, right? Just like in the 90s, the Heaven's Gate, people said these people are insane. Same thing with so many others. Look at what's his name? Simon Parks. He's a reptilian. He's a mented. Now what? What happened? Oh, it doesn't apply to an empowered human being. So all of a sudden, he's not a mented, he's not a reptilian, but all of a sudden, he is giving you updates on what's going on and how everything's going human way. Really? A mented gonna tell me what's going on with human consciousness? Really? Really? When you decline yourself as being human. So when it was cool to go out there and tell everybody, oh, I'm imposter. Oh, good. I'm non-human, because it was cool to be non-human. And then all of a sudden, oops, not so popular anymore. So anyway, you guys, I've been here for over an hour, but it's a very interesting subject. But I've got my weapon. They weaponize human consciousness, and this is what MK Ultra against us. And these people are. And you ask about what's her name? Michelle Walling, right? And John of God. Amy, it has to do with the technology and how they got it. Again, it's all how and where, and what these people use, and how they're connected. And all it has to do, you guys unravel their connections when they weren't hiding it. So look back at least to 2013. And just to save you guys all of the people that I talk about, ultimately all roads will lead to Vatican. And so here we go, Vatican. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. Because these people are stupid, you guys. These people are so stupid. So like I told you, they have no intelligence, because their third strand is techno strand, and all it's based on that they can't reprogram themselves like a human being can reprogram through activating the living field within him. And that's what it is. And they don't have it. They just don't get it. Don't have it. So black goo, yes, that's the black goo technology they use. And this is it in that thread that I post. There is a thing is in there about how they invade this, and it has to do with quantum computers that they use. Okay, and so they use the black goo to operate those quantum computers, Amy. So, but you will see. I talked about this also in 2015 when I did that AI conference and how it works, and so I did say what it was and things like that. So I still have it. So the 5G thing that's what it is. It's the new hive mind grid. It's not that it's the hive. It's not a 5G technology. It's the hive mind grid. That technological grid. That's what they were working. The Googlies were working on that too, and so it's all developed. It's all developed through stealing the living light in underground facilities and all of that, and making humans believe that it's okay because, you know, aliens are coming to save us. So all of those people. So imagine that. Um, uh, Rory, you said Trump fast tracking 5G, taking control of it, and you know, and saying, you know, we're gonna decide what we do here because it's our country. It's not the same as, you know, I'm just gonna listen to what, you know, and continue with the agenda. That's two different things. So a lot of people don't know the difference because they don't understand the equilibrium of life, that if to get anywhere in reality, if you know, leave half of yourself behind somewhere in the darkness, and you're gonna move towards the light, you're gonna be empty, and you're gonna be binary, and you're gonna be running from yourself, and you're gonna be running towards yourself and hitting the dead end, and you're gonna be hitting your head on the wall until you go back to your origin and establish your equilibrium. So then you are at the beginning and at the end of your timeline. And that's how you eliminate any other timeline that is not suitable for your future. So a lot of people out there with a lot of knowledge on techno-spirituality think that they can apply that into putting emotional words towards their techno-spirituality's construct, that the belief systems that they have. And this is what I see, those people that they can't see in their external reality anything beyond matrix, because they're of it. That's why they can't see, you know, they can't see living reality, because that's why all of those, it's AI, we're going to be taken over by AI. Oh, the boy, what's happening here? You know, why? Because that's who they are. That's their genetic structure, you guys. That's the dust of the universe. That's the soulless ones. They don't have a soul, living soul. They don't have a living flame. That's why they can experience this reality. But you guys, we can. So I've been here for a while. Thank you so much. This has been an intense subject, so thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys so much. I hope you're ready. Stand strong there, because life is beautiful, and human consciousness is evolving, and we're gonna do great, you guys. So I love you all so much. Bye, everybody. Bye, hunters. Become the hunted.